Good morning, everyone. So welcome to this breakout session. As part of the 37th CED Foundation Day celebration with this event, Research Colloquium, we are given the opportunity to listen to the 4 research studies under Humanities and Social Sciences with the CED research agenda, positive education, social and cultural dimensions of education. So my name is Shani Rosario Narit. I will be your moderator for this breakout session. So this is just to remind everyone here in this breakout room to fill up the attendance form sent in this chat box. Okay, so I have sent the attendance form in the chat box. So for those who haven't filled it up yet, so please fill in. Um, so before we start, here are the house rules. Let me present it to you. Okay, so here are the house rules. First, in the Google Meet, please refrain from opening your camera unless requested. Second, please keep your mic off to avoid unnecessary background noise to interfere with the proceedings. Third, attendance links are provided in the Google Meet chat and the YouTube live comment section. So to get your certificate of attendance, please fill up the evaluation form shortly before we end our activity. And we encourage everyone to ask questions and give comments or feedback only after each presentation. So here are some reminders for the presenters. First, we only have 10 minutes time for presentation. Second, there is 5-minute allotment for questions and comments. And third, please be on the meeting room at least 10 minutes before the start of your respective breakout session. Okay. So I guess let us start with the first presenter. So our first presenter for this breakout session is Ma'am Mary Analindisa Villano with a research title, Online Learning, It's Boon and Bane to Basic Education Students, Motivation in Reading.
Online learning, it's Boon and Bane to basic education students' motivation in reading. The recent outbreak of COVID-19 has globally increased the gap between educational sectors. The coronavirus pandemic has greatly affected the humanity. Global health concerns have been proved to be very difficult to manage, as well as educational disruptions. Several studies showed that introduction of electronic learning initiatives has failed because many schools were not prepared for this type of learning. However, due to the dangerous outbreak of COVID-19, there is an increased global demand for online education. Here are the objectives of my study. First, to identify the personal factors that are determinant to learners' motivation in reading. Second, to identify the learner's perception towards online learning in terms of support from peers, teachers, and parents. And third, to know the advantages and disadvantages of online learning to students' reading motivation. Here is my theoretical framework. First one is online reading comprehension theory. According to this theory, the theory of online reading comprehension is related to the theory of new literacies. Broadly conceived, new literacies argued the nature of literacy and learning is rapidly transforming because of new and relevant technology that emerge. Second one is expectancy value theory. Expectancy value theories of motivation suggest that learners will be motivated to engage in a certain task if they know that they can succeed and if they see importance in the task that they are doing. The third one is social constructivism learning theory. The social constructivism approach lies primarily on the work of Piaget in 1972, which put emphasizes on the role of collaboration and interaction of the learners on other people throughout the learning process. Here is my conceptual framework. We have here personal factors and social factors. Personal factors have three. We have perception and online learning, self-motivation, and connectivity. Connectivity pertains to the internet connection that students have. In the social factors, we have three. We have the peers, the teachers, and also the parents. And these personal factors and social factors, the output is the effects of online learning in the time of COVID-19. Here is my methodology. This study is a qualitative and quantitative research that deepens the understanding on the effects of online learning to learners' motivation in reading. For qualitative method, the first one or the part one is data collection, part two is data transcription, part three is data validation, and part four is data analysis, which includes data familiarization, coding, searching for themes, defining and naming themes, and then writing up. For quantitative method, I am going to use questionnaires. We use descriptive survey and rating scale questionnaires through Google Forms. Here are my results and discussions. First one is controlling for age and gender. Is the pandemic a significant predictor of online learning motivation? Yes, it is significant because the significance is 0.034. It is supported by the study by Simons, Duraco, and Hochschild in 2020, which says researches conducted during COVID-19 showed that students all over the world have been greatly affected by the pandemic, especially in the closure of schools. The second one is controlling for age and gender. Is parent-initiated motivation a significant predictor of online learning motivation? Yes, it is significant because the significance is 0.030. It is supported with a study by Davis 2000 and Bake, Scher, and Mackler 1997, which says, with regards to the effects of family involvement on education outcomes of a child, research revealed that parent involvement in specific makes difference in the child's academic achievement, not much likely tangible than what people considered so far, the beliefs, values, and also the attitudes. The third one, controlling for age and gender, is social presence a significant predictor of online learning motivation? Yes, it is significant with a significance 0.000. It is supported by the study of Wicks in 2010, which said that the presence of an effective teacher is a big aspect in the learner's successful learning experience in any setting. But then little is known about the individual experiences of some online teachers, especially this time of COVID-19, that most of the teachers are not really ready of this online class, which actually affects the students' reading motivation. Here are some of my qualitative data. The first one is, what are the students' perception in terms of online reading? Here are some of the common responses. Well, online class for me is hard because I can't really communicate well with others. I feel uncomfortable reading online because it is painful in the eyes sometimes. Next one, I feel sad because I cannot see my new classmates and teachers in person. The third, online class is easy to understand because the teachers convey the lessons properly. The last one, online class is also hard because some students do not have stable internet connection, but it is a safe and good learning opportunity during COVID-19. The second question is, what are the problems and challenges of online learning during pandemic? Here are some common responses of the students. Unstable internet connection, outdated gadgets, noisy environment, and lack of ICT skills. Third one is lack of personal interaction or hard to interact with one another online because of connectivity. The third question is, what are the strengths developed during online learning? Here are some common responses. Enhancing basic ICT skills for online learning, especially using Google for Education, since most of the students and teachers are using Google for Education. The second one is the strength that I developed during online learning is that I can study by myself already. And the third one is the strength that I developed is that no matter how hard the situation is, there is no reason for us to stop learning. Here is my conclusions. Within few months since the outbreak of COVID-19, there is a great change in the lifestyle of all people, such as being forced to stay at home, maintain social distancing, and work and learn from home. Due to the pandemic, online education is introduced to majority of the schools. Online education is a broad term that describes various teaching and learning tools for the students. Since there is no face-to-face classes, there are advantages and disadvantages which online class brought to students. Advantages include the following: provides clear, easy to follow, and step-by-step instructions. Disadvantages include the following: living conditions, economic problems, and low educational attainment of the parents. On this matter, this study concluded that there are boons and banes, or advantages and disadvantages, to consider in order to have a successful online learning that affects their reading motivation. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Marianne Sabellano, for a very relevant and timely research study. Indeed, there are really advantages and disadvantages with online learning. So we have here Ma'am Marianne Sabellano to answer your questions from our audience here. You can just type probably your questions in our comment or chat box, or you may unmute and just raise your hand. Okay, so I guess while we are waiting, Ma'am Sabellano, I am just curious, based on the results of your study, do you think online learning is more of a boon or more of a bane to basic education students' motivation in reading, and why?
Honestly, ma'am, for today, I can really see that it's actually a disadvantage because we are dealing with the fact that education here in the Philippines is not really ready for online learning, because I myself, I am a teacher and we are utilizing online classes. So the students are really having a hard time to adjust, especially their internet connection, as well as me here in our home. We have a very slow internet connection, and also um, the students, I can really observe that some of them are really not motivated to study because aside from the slow internet connection, they feel isolated at their homes because they miss their classmates. And also, I'm having a hard time checking requirements because most of them really do not pass requirements on time. That is really my problem. And I'm really having a hard time to record scores. But there are advantages, but more on disadvantages. But I think it's really normal because we are still in the stage of adapting and adapting and adjusting ourselves in this kind of educational setting that we have today.
Yes, ma'am, I could really attest to that. You are saying that as a teacher, it's really hard. How much more to our students? So I guess, ma'am, there are no questions from our audience, and your research study is really relevant and very clear to us. So let me present to you, ma'am, this certificate of recognition. So Mindanao State University Legal Institute of Technology College of Education presents the certificate of recognition to Mary Annalyn Diaz Avellano for sharing her knowledge and expertise as presenter during the 37th Foundation Day Anniversary Research Colloquium on Academic Resilience during the Pandemic of the College of Education, given the 17th day of March 2021 at the MSU-IIT Ligan City. Signed by our Dean, Amenity Boon, PhD, and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Franco G. Tevez, PhD. So thank you very much again, Ma'am Mary Annalyn, for this opportunity. We have learned so much about your research study. Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so right now we are down to the second presenter. So the next research study entitled The Decline of Religious Participation Among Catholic Senior High School Students, Religious Disengagement and Changes in Coping Mechanisms by R. Joseph Esperanza and July L. Maraglia.
Excuse me, good morning. Ma'am, can we use our pre-recorded, ma'am, because my internet is a bit choppy right now. Thank you.
Yes, I thank you very much.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I am Art Joseph Taranza, and with me is Miss July Ann Marañon, and we're here to share our research paper on the decline of religious participation among Catholic senior high school students, religious disengagement, and changes in coping mechanisms. So we're here to look into how senior high school students of the school MSU-IIT have disengaged from the Catholic religion and how that disengagement affected the way they cope with problems and other challenges within their daily lives. So, for the background of the study, religion plays a central role in everyday living, especially since the predominance of religion in our daily life. People always turn to religion whenever problems arise, whenever we see the death of a relative, whenever we face hardships in life, whenever we fail something, we always turn to religion to seek guidance and seek comfort. However, since the turn of the 21st century and like the contemporary society, modern philosophy and lifestyles detach the importance of religion. Religious dogmas are frequently challenged, and many within the Filipino youth see Catholicism as a medieval artifact due to access to widespread information that allowed them to read materials contrary to what is being thought. So, since then, priesthood and vocations and churches, church attendance is in decline since 1965 in the United States. In the Philippines, context, Catholic mass attendance was at the lowest of 31% in 2013. And only 29% of Catholics consider themselves to be
Excuse me, ma'am. Good morning. Can I stream the presentation instead from my computer, ma'am?
Very religious.
The study aims to explore the disengagement.
Hello, Art.
Ma'am, I think there seems to be a problem with on your side. Can I stream instead, ma'am?
Yes, yes, please. Thank
Okay, ma'am.
you. Okay, Art, will you be able to present on your end? Okay, thank you.
Is it visible, ma'am? Okay.
Art Joseph Taranza, and with me is Miss July Ann Marañon, and we're here to share our research paper on the decline of religious participation among Catholic senior high school students, religious disengagement, and changes in coping mechanisms. So we're here to look into how senior high school students of the school MSU-IIT have disengaged from the Catholic religion and how that disengagement affected the way they cope with problems and other challenges within their daily lives. So, for the background of the study, religion plays a central role in everyday living, especially since the predominance of religion in our daily life. People always turn to religion whenever problems arise, whenever we see the death of a relative, whenever we face hardships in life, whenever we fail something, we always turn to religion to seek guidance and seek comfort. However, since the turn of the 21st century and like the contemporary society, modern philosophy and lifestyles detach the importance of religion. Religious dogmas are frequently challenged, and many within the Filipino youth see Catholicism as a medieval artifact due to access to widespread information that allowed them to read materials contrary to what is being thought. So, since then, priesthood and vocations and churches, church attendance is in decline since 1965 in the United States. In the Filipino context, Catholic mass attendance was at the lowest of 31% in 2013, and only 29% of Catholics consider themselves to be very religious.
The study aims to explore the disengagement of Catholic senior high school students and the changes in their coping mechanisms. Specifically, this paper seeks to answer the following questions. First, what are the religious activities of the respondents before the disengagement? 2. What are the respondents' religious coping mechanisms? 3. What are the factors that influence the respondents' disengagement to religious participation? And 4th, what are the respondents' new coping mechanisms after the disengagement? This framework summarizes the variables that this research wanted to explore. To understand the subjective experiences of religious disengagement, we analyzed the religious activities of the respondents and their religious coping mechanism before the decline. As explained earlier, followers of a certain religion has coping mechanisms which are religious in nature. Then the arrow symbolizes for the transition to religious disengagement, which entailed us to investigate on the subjective factors which has led to the decline in religious participation and subsequently changes in their coping mechanism, if there are any. Our paper employed a phenomenological approach to this subject of research, wherein we aimed to focus on the subjective lived experience of the respondents to explain this certain phenomenon. This was used to capture the subjectivity of this experience. We used a preliminary survey questionnaire to filter those people who have signs of religious decline by asking them about their religious participation in the form of church attendance or participation, prayer life, and their participation to church organizations or ministry. After that, we invited the filtered respondents to a focus group discussion to answer our four objectives. This was to allow them to find shared experiences with other respondents and for us to understand the common grounds in the study of this topic. After that, we analyzed the transcribed data through thematic organization. We grouped similar themes and concluded with a set of recurring themes when it comes to their subjective factors of disengagement and their new coping mechanisms.
So what are the religious activities of the respondents before disengagement? So three-fourths of the respondents were enrolled in Catholic schools during their junior high school and elementary years, and a lot of them have attended regular Sunday masses before. Also, those who were studying in Catholic schools also had mandatory Christian living class as means to garner or gain Catholic teaching. And moreover, in public schools, they also have catechism classes for indoctrination. Many of the respondents have said that it instilled to them a sense of obedience, wherein they are ought to follow what is being taught, the teachings that are being taught, and the practices that are being taught in the school. But moreover, some have told us that it also gave them a competitive religious environment wherein they are forced to know more prayers than their classmates or strive to become holier than any of their classmates or somebody else. So what are the respondents' religious coping mechanisms? So a lot of the respondents have said that praying have helped them in harsh times, especially wherein one respondent have said to us that when they were faced in the middle of a combat between government forces and rebel forces, their family was praying that they be protected and they be safe by God. But moreover, some of them pray or turn to God to have someone to talk to with their problems, to have someone to share their thoughts and plights with. And others also found somebody else who are very religious and deemed to imitate those religious friends that they have as also means to quote unquote sanctify themselves. And also some of the respondents have told us that it's also a means of trying to bargain with God, wherein they would promise God that they would go to church on Sunday if God gives them a high grade in their examinations.
The first common factor was family. The family plays a part in linking children into social institutions such as the church, especially in a conservative country like the Philippines. With that, when most of the family members stopped participating in religious activities, two of the respondents said it influenced them to also stop. These subjective experiences may infer that the influence of the family is crucial for the devotion to not waver, which is understandable given that family plays a huge role in religious indoctrination. The second factor which was recurring in the analysis was religion being a routine. The respondents saw praying and going to church as a routine rather than intimate activities. Respondents complied because they were expected or told to do so. Moreover, the Catholic Mass being so structured kind of enforces strict obedience, such as kneeling on a specific time or the Mass itself reflecting a very structured program. Thirdly, religious participation also came to them as a mere compliance. Especially those who were enrolled in Catholic schools, memorization of prayers or names of saints was just another thing or requirement to comply. It made the respondents feel like they were deprived of their own will because they never understood or they were never told why should they do such things. The fourth recurring factor was the respondents' questions and curiosity about their religion. Questions after questions stacked without being provided sufficient answers and explanations which made them skeptical about it. There were loopholes plastered with because the Bible says so. Moreover, there was hostility within family members when they tried to open such discussion, and they felt like they are being judged for questioning a God and faith. Lastly, and arguably most importantly, the dissonance between personal values and religious values have made the respondents disengage from Catholicism. Although the respondents clarified that it was not the religion itself, they saw the hypocrisy within it, such as preaching something but not doing it. Hate crimes stemming from the practice of that religion played a role in that dissonance, which led the respondents to drift away from that hypocrisy. Since the respondents have disengaged from the religion, they have also formed other forms of coping as an alternative to religion. First is that respondents relied on themselves, or self-reliance. From someone who asks a god to do something for them, the respondents said they relied on what they can do. They say that they became their own cheerleaders by checking on themselves when they feel down. They felt like their struggles were on their own terms as a consequence of their actions rather than it being a God's plan. Secondly, they use the value of acceptance. To cope, they accept that there really are things that they cannot control, especially when there are things that they fail to do. Third is talking to peers as a coping mechanism. Venting out was seen as useful for frustrations to not bottle up. Instead of praying, they talk to their friends about their struggles and find relief on the thought that someone is listening. The fourth new way of coping was engaging in things related to art, to express emotions, especially in times of grief and anger. One of the respondents shared how they used art to let out their anger towards a certain someone. They said that it helped them a little. Lastly, some respondents also used entertainment such as the Korean pop or K-pop as a means of coping. It became a way to have fun and distract themselves from their problems. Another respondent shared how she utilized videos from motivational vloggers that teach ways on how to improve self-love and battle anxiety without clinging to a higher being.
In conclusion, religious decline is caused by factors previously mentioned, such as family, curiosity, and religion being simply a routine to the respondents. Moreover, the respondents have a distaste in continuing affiliation because of the hypocrisies and moral inconsistencies rampant within the church itself. Despite the church's recent efforts in making the religion more open and progressive, such responsive may be primarily a result of a lack in proper and open Catholic education with regards to the religion that allows individuals to firmly get a grasp of what they are practicing and the rationale behind the rituals and beliefs. Moreover, it points towards the ever perpetuating rigidity of the clergy and devout faithful that seeks blind obedience when it comes to practicing the faith. On a further level, it shows the effect of a lack of proper religious education, as the contrary would allow parents and the clergy to effectively catechize the faithful. On the respondents' coping mechanisms, it's clear that most of them, after having decided that religion placed little relevance in their life, the respondents showed a much more self-centered and independent approach in dealing with problems through self-reliance and venting of emotions, rather than a top-down approach where the individual seek and relies upon divine assistance in order to effectively cope with existing hardships.
Okay, thank you very much, Art and July. So that was a well-presented research study. So I personally believe that religion is a very important aspect in our lives as well. For our audience, if you have queries or questions, please drop your questions here in our chat box so that we can adjust this to them. Before we proceed to the question and answer, Art and July, let me just present to you this certificate of recognition. Adalfa Cicilor is the co-author of Ma'am Sabeliano a while ago. So, certificate of recognition to Adalfa Cicilor for sharing her knowledge and expertise as presenter during the 37th Foundation Days anniversary research colloquium on academic resilience during the pandemic of the College of Education, given the 17th day of March 2021 at the MSU-IIT, Iligan City. Thank you again, Ma'am Savidiano and Ma'am Celor. So, let me see my chat box. Okay, I guess the research was well presented, that our audience don't have any questions. So, um, I find this topic, Art and July, very relevant, and especially nowadays. I would like to ask, you have mentioned the 5 factors of disengagement. As a researcher and part of the youth in this generation, which among the factors of disengagement you think is possibly controllable on the part of the student, and why?
Excuse me, ma'am. Which factor is controllable on part of
Yes,
the
the part of the student.
student?
Do you think if there is any controllable factors?
Um, I think it's personally. I think it's more of their them trying to seek questions. I'd seek answers on their religion personally because during our, as far as I can remember, during our uh this during our focus group discussion, we asked our we asked our respondents on what are the measures that they have done in order to seek answers on their curiosities, and I think so far there were no responses on their measures. I think if probably if others start to become curious about their religion, I think people could do their own measures in order to resolve their own curiosities at hand.
Okay, I agree to that, Art. So if you are curious about something, you would really find an answer to that curiosity. So, Art and July, I guess there are no questions for your research. So let me proceed to the presentation of your certificate. Let me start with July. So hereby present the certificate of recognition to July Ann Almaranian for sharing her knowledge and expertise as presenter during the 37th Foundation Day Anniversary Research Colloquium on Academic Resilience during the pandemic of the College of Education given the 17th day of March 2021 at the MSU-IIT Ligan City, signed by Aminati Boon, PhD, our Dean, and Franco G. Fevas, PhD, our Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. Okay, thank you very much, Ms. July. Also, let me present to you this certificate of recognition to Art Joseph S. Taranza for sharing his knowledge and expertise as presenter during the 37th Foundation Day Anniversary Research Colloquium on Academic Resilience during the pandemic of the College of Education, given the 17th day of March 2021 at the MSU-IIT Ligan City. So, signed by Ma'am Amenity Buon, PhD, and Sir Franco G. Tevez, PhD. So again, thank you very much, Mr. R. Taranza and Ms. July Maramian. Okay, so now let us proceed to our third presenter. Ma'am Jelly Grace C. Lozano will share her research study about assessing the efficacy of a low-intensity cognitive behavioral therapy-based intervention in improving the mental health of conflict-exposed individuals.
May I ask, ma'am, if I should present the video or will you be doing it?
Um, I will try to present it on my end, ma'am, and then if ever the internet connection does not cooperate with me, is it okay if you will present on my behalf later on?
Okay po, sige po.
Thank you.
Hello and good day to everyone who is watching this presentation. My name is Jelly Grace C. Lozano. I'm a graduate in the Law and Guidance and Counseling program for college education, and I'm here to present my thesis on assessing the efficacy of a low-intensity cognitive behavioral therapy-based treatment in improving the well-being of conflict-exposed individuals. So as a background, we all know that in countries such as the Philippines, considered as an LMIC or a low and middle income class country, there are rampant armed conflict and violent situations. more recently, the Marawi siege, that has resulted in various negative mental health consequences. So these negative mental health consequences include post-traumatic stress disorders, anxiety, depression, and psychological distress. Currently, there are interventions and treatment programs to address the outcomes or the negative consequences of these armed conflict situations. However, delivery of such interventions, particularly in LMICs such as the Philippines, is wrought with many challenges and obstacles, including the lack of professionals, the stigma attached to help seeking behaviors, as well as the lack of awareness with regards to the programs that are actually available for those who are in need of services. As such, the present study aimed to test the Problem Management Plus or the PM Plus as a low intensity intervention in the LMIC. So we aimed to investigate the efficacy of this program among a sample of war exposed college students, specifically those who were exposed to the Marawi siege. As a background to the Problem Management Plus, so the Problem Management Plus is actually a low intensity intervention that was developed by the World Health Organization, which aimed to specifically address the lack of interventions that can be given in places or settings where there are a lack of mental health professionals such as psychiatrists, psychologists, and those settings wherein there are minimal resources available for helpers and volunteers. So the Problem Management Plus is a cognitive behavioral therapy based intervention, meaning that it targets um, behavioral aspects of an individual's recovery. So, in all the sessions of the PM Plus, there are skills and strategies which are being taught in order to help the individual cope with their distress and their problems that were that came out as a result of their experience, perhaps, and other confounding experiences that may have worsened their situation. So this research was conducted using a quantitative research design. Specifically, we used a randomized controlled trial, and the study was conducted in MSU Marawi and MSU Iligan City in two locales. And there are 29 conflict exposed college students between the ages of 19 to 21 years old who were invited to join and who gave their consent to join this intervention. The measurement tools that we used gathered information on their demographics, their trauma exposure, their psychological distress, functionality and trauma, depression, and anxiety symptoms. So all of the measurement tools that are being used here were the ones suggested by the World Health Organization for those who are implementing the PM Plus in their locales, and they have been found to have high reliability and validity in various contexts. So for the participant flow, included here is the inclusion and exclusion criteria that we used in this study to determine um, whoever those students are that can participate and those who had to be denied admission to the program, probably because of the following reasons. So, a total of 1,000 plus students were screened. The enrolled students means that they were the ones who were in need of intervention. They met the cutoff scores for the measurement tools that were used in the study. However, 12 declined the invitation, and 195 did not respond even after follow-ups from the researcher. So from the 31 people that remained in the original sample, they were randomized using an online randomizer between a treatment group and a waitlist control group. So the PM Plus group and the waitlist control groups. They were administered pre-tests and post-tests. And in the middle of the administration, or in the middle of the study, there were 2 dropouts from the PM Plus group and 3 dropouts from the waitlist control group. So I'll be presenting to you the results of the study. So as you can see, at pretest, there was no difference between the PM plus group and the waitlist control groups in terms of their outcomes, which included their psychological distress, their functionality, and psychological um, outcomes. This means that after exposure to the Marawi siege and perhaps other stressful situations, the levels of mental health outcomes between the two groups were equal. After the study, after some time, there was no change in the waitlist control groups, which means that at the end of the study, no significant change was found in the outcome scores. So before, at the beginning, at pretest and at post-test, the waitlist control group's symptoms did not significantly improve. This is a stark contrast to the results for the PM Plus group, wherein significant improvement for the PM Plus group was found, particularly in terms of all of their mental health outcomes except for functionality. The reason why functionality might not have improved, or there was no significant improvement that was apparent for functionality, must be because of the time in between administration of the post test and the completion of the program. So evidence suggests that functioning may be less responsive to treatment than symptoms of psychological disorders. So while there may be significant improvement in the symptoms after intervention, the improvement for functioning may take some time to show observable improvements. However, an interesting fact that we found in the study was that at the end of the post-test, the PM plus and waitlist control groups differed significantly in terms of the outcome, with the PM plus group achieving low scores. So the present findings show the conflict-exposed college students taking part in the intervention experienced a positive change in terms of their mental health. Additionally, administering the PM plus appears to be better than providing no treatment at all, as evidenced by the non-significant change in the waitlist control group. So this finding is relevant given the dire lack of mental health services in the Philippines and the barriers of the implementation of such interventions. The findings of the study have to be taken in light of several limitations. Of course, because of the small sample size, the generalizability of the results is quite limited, and we were not able to calculate for effect size or any power calculations. Because of the nature of the study as well, we were not able to investigate mechanisms associated with change beyond this is beyond the scope of the study and may be investigated in future studies. And going further, we were not able to compare PM plus against the efficacy of other interventions, and there were no scores for the waitlist control groups gathered, even though they later on they were provided the services of PM plus as well. Notwithstanding these limitations, our study found that there is a potential for PM plus to be used as a low-intensity cognitive behavioral therapy-based intervention in improving psychological outcomes, particularly of those individuals exposed to war and conflict situations in an LMIC. We also suggest that in order to address the myriad needs of individuals, it may be best to use PM Plus as a complementary to other targeted interventions rather than just as a single intervention. And lastly, preliminary evidence. This study presents preliminary evidence for using or implementing low-intensity cognitive behavioral therapy-based interventions such as the PM Plus in the educational setting, particularly in the guidance and counseling setting. So while this presentation was far from comprehensive, I hope that we were able to pique your interest with regards to interventions that are possible to be given to those students who may need such services in the educational setting. Once again, this is Jelly Gracie Lozano. I'm a graduate of the MAED Guidance and Counseling Program. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma'am Lozano, for that very informative, and really I could really appreciate the study because mental health is an integral part of the entire health that we have as a human. So according to WHO, there is no health without mental health. So which is why I really hope that given some limitations that was mentioned by Ma'am Lozano, our future researchers probably here may be able to continue or make this as a benchmark study. So we will entertain questions from the audience. So please drop your questions in our chat box, or you can unmute probably so that Ma'am Lozano could hear you asking the question. Okay, so I guess while waiting, Ma'am, I have this curiosity of mine. So there were 5 sessions that you have mentioned to complete the PM Plus. How many hours or probably days do each session consume, and in totality, how long it will take for the PM Plus to finish?
So thank you, ma'am, no, for that question. I guess I was not able to include it in the original presentation, but each session, kung tanawon lang sa from the PM Plus manual, each session lasts for about an hour and 30 minutes. So that's 90 minutes per session, and that's 5 sessions all in all. Pero that does not include the pre-test because we have to assess them we have to assess the participants kung kinsa lang tong pwede mo appeal sa intervention. So that's 1 session, and then another session at the end for a post-assessment. So that's 6 to 7 sessions depende sa design of those people facilitating the intervention. So 6 to 7 sessions times 90 minutes. So ganun po siya katagal. It will last about a month or a month and a half to 2 months po.
Yes, ma'am, that's really an extensive research paper. So I congratulate you, ma'am. That's really a very good research, and then it's really informative on our part, especially we as teachers. We also have this concern to our students, especially their mental health. So students or audiences here in our Google Meet, do you have further questions for Ma'am Lozano? Okay, so I guess that's it, ma'am. So, ma'am, let me present to you this certificate of recognition. So, certificate of recognition to Jelly Grace C. Lozano for sharing her knowledge and expertise as presenter during the 37th Foundation Day Anniversary Research Colloquium on Academic Resilience during the Pandemic of the College of Education, given the 17th day of March 2021 at the MSU-IIT Iligan City, signed by Ma'am Amelia Tibuan, PhD, our Dean in College of Education, and Sir Franco G. Teves, PhD, our Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. Once again, thank you very much, Ma'am Lozano, for that insightful research. Okay, so now we're down to the last presenter. So our last presenter will be Sir Mac Roland D. Vallaspin and Edna B. Nabua. They will talk about the research study entitled Development of 7E Lesson Plan to Gas Laws. So let me share my screen.
The function of education is to teach one to think critically, but education which stops with efficiency may prove the greatest menace to society. The most dangerous criminal may be the man gifted with reason but with no morals. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I am Macrolin D. Vallaspin, a graduate of Master of Science in Education, major in Chemistry, to present my study in this colloquium entitled Development of 7E Lesson Plan on Gas Laws. I am interested with this kind of study to know the level of understanding of the students in chemistry, specifically with the topic gas laws, since it is one of the underpinning once they proceed in the higher level of education. With this, we, the researcher and the co-advisors, created a tool that could help the students improve their learning and understanding on the said topic. Shown to you on the next slide are the concerns or gaps that needs to be addressed. So here are the research gaps. Okay, so the first one, with not enough proper instruction during their primary education, students' conceptual understanding may affected. That is according to Osman 2004. It may become a primary concern among researchers in science education because they influence how students learn new scientific knowledge. The second one, we need a learning model that will help our learners to develop their integrated thinking. That is according to Rauf et al. 2013. Many models can be used, such as that of inquiry-based. The 7E learning cycle model is inquiry-based learning in a constructivist approach. The third one is mathematical thinking is similar to scientific thinking, and it is a vital concern that students should acquire the necessary confidence to exercise mathematical skills in the context of chemistry. That is according to Engle, 1981. On the other hand, chemistry may be construed as a mathematical science as it deals with numbers and calculations. It is expected that achievement in chemistry would be enhanced by good background knowledge in mathematics. For the research objectives, the first one is we are going to determine the learner's conceptual understanding through an achievement test. Number two is we're going to develop lesson plans using the 7E model on gas laws, such as Boyle's law, Charles' law, and Gay-Lussac's law. And for the third one is we're going to determine the effect of 7E learning cycle model towards learners' level of conceptual understanding on gas laws. So for the conceptual framework of the study, these are anchored on the theories that was conceived to tackle issues on alternative conceptions besetting the learners and how to reduce them in order to improve students' learning. For the input, as you can see, you have the prior alternative conception and the prior conceptual understanding. For the process, we develop 7E lesson plan on gas laws and implementing 7E lesson plan on gas laws. And for the output, level of conceptual understanding, level of alternative conception. Let's continue with the research methodology. So in this type of research, we have used descriptive design supported with qualitative data to investigate the learner's achievement in gas laws. The quantitative data are derived from the learner's academic achievement in gas laws. The qualitative data, on the other hand, was derived from the lesson study cycle. Now, in determining the learner's cognitive level of conceptual understanding, the researcher used a self-made two-tiered multiple choice diagnostic instrument. Aside from the self-made diagnostic test, the researcher secured the learner's profile to obtain more learner's information. Okay, in this slide, we can see the data gathering procedure. So we have three phases. So for the first one, you have the preliminary phase, letter request to the principal, parents' consent, development of the 7E lesson plan, and two-tier multiple choice achievement test. And you have also the evaluation, contents, and phase validation. For the phase two is the tryout implementation of the research participants. Here you have three cycles. And for the last phase, or the phase three, is your conduct of the research, where this phase is done after the tryout and validation of all the research instruments. And the research instruments are already put in their final form. Now we are on the results and discussion. So in this figure, this is figure 1, learner's level of conceptual understanding on gas laws. So the learner's level of conceptual understanding is unfairly satisfactory as a result of their pretest performance. Conceptual knowledge of gas pressure is central to several high school chemistry topics, including stoichiometry of gaseous products and reactants, changes in state, kinetics, and equilibrium. Understanding of the concept of gas pressure is difficult for students. That is according to Benson, DeBerg, and Rolnick et al. 1993. In the next slide is you have here a table. This is a mean rating on the developed 7E lesson plan model. Based on the results, it shows that elicit, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate showed an outstanding remark, and the remaining phases showed very satisfactorily remark. This implies that the experts agreed that the developed 7E lesson plans on gas laws were well developed. Okay, in this table, it shows the pre-test and post-test scores before and after the 7E implementation. So table 2 shows that there was an increase in learners' level of conceptual understanding as manifested by their pre-test and post-test scores. It dramatically shows that utilization of the 7E lesson plan model had a positive effect on their conceptual understanding. The learners performed significantly in Charles' law, followed by Gay-Lussac's law, then Boyle's law. From the overall mean, it shows a significant increase in scores from their pre-test and post-test scores from fairly satisfactory to outstanding. This implies that most of the students who underwent the 7E lessons improved their conceptual understanding of the gas laws. Okay, so we're now on to the conclusion. Based on the preceding findings, the following conclusions were drawn. First one is significant increase in score from the pre-test to the post-test with corresponding descriptive ratings from fairly satisfactory to outstanding. The implementation of the 7E lesson model improved the learner's conceptual understanding of gas laws. Then, by using the 7E lesson model, improve the conceptual understanding of the learners. Before I end my presentation, I would like to thank these people in organizations because without them, my study would not be made possible. To my research advisor, Dr. Edna B. Nabwa, who had contributed her ideas and insights to this study, as well as for her extensive understanding and efforts. To my panel members, Dr. Monera A. Salik Hairula and Professor Maria Cecilia V. Almeda, who gave constructive comments and suggestions to make this study better. We thank them for the time and effort they spent on this study, and also to my mentors, Dr. Manuel B. Barquilla, and to the Dean, Dr. Amelia Tibuan, who were present during the pre and final defense in giving such scholarly comments on my study. To my school, MSU-IIT, and college education for giving me an avenue to learn for the past years, and DOSTSEI for granting my scholarship and opening the door towards greater opportunities. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I am now ready for your comments and suggestions. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Sir Valiaskin, for that informative research study. So I really believe that as teachers, we as teachers really find ways for our learners to have their learning be improved or for them to get our topics easier and they could learn from it. So we will now entertain questions from our audience. So please drop your questions in our chat box, or you can unmute yourself so that you can deliver your questions to our to Sir Valiaskin. Okay, I guess our audience is very silent. So, Sir Mark Rollins, I have a simple question from a teacher from yes. Do you think the 7E lesson plan is applicable to all science and math related topics, sir?
Uh,
Yes, ma'am. So your question is if the 7E lesson plan would be applicable, especially to science and mathematics subjects. Am I right? Um, I think it's really applicable, especially to these fields, especially to sciences like other aspects in the field of physics, biology, and especially to math, because more likely these steps in the 7E lesson plan would really gather information on how can we do our best, especially in instructing our students. So in these steps, we could really see what particular part of the lesson could the learners have its difficulties, and for that, if that and with that difficulty that we have looked into, we are going to look ways on how to make the lesson more easier. So more likely the 7E lesson plan would really open the door on the difficulties, and not only difficulties but also the positive aspect, like what is your strength in your learning, especially um, what part of the lesson kaya na mura og better gid akong pagtudlo, so basin pwede na to siya ma-apply to another topic, so like that. So there is really many things that really going on in this particular research, no? Especially the using the tool of 7E lesson model.
Yes, sir. I really agree with that. Sir, we have a question from our audience from Mr. Joshua Barsomo. So, thank you for your presentation, Sir Valdez. May I ask how you chose which strategy to use to evaluate your quantitative data? Did you need to research for a related study to back up of your choice?
Okay. Um, Okay, thank you so much, Sir Joshua, for asking that relevant question. Actually, with the chosen strategy, it's just that we have decided to use the 7E lesson, but with the topic, let's say the gas laws. No, so we have this pre-implementation. So it means that we have conducted the 7E lesson to see in that particular range of dates, so kung unsa kaha ang ilahang difficulty. So with that difficulty that we have discovered on that certain period of time, so we have to look for strategies na dayon to deal with those difficulties. So it's more likely discovery, no, with the difficulties that we have found on that particular period. So if we have found already the difficulties, then we look into strategy and develop a lesson for it. So proper lesson. So if you have listened to into my previous slides, in my presentation, I have three cycles for it. So it's not just na if we have looked into the difficulty um, part, we have made the dayon the lesson, mo na din to siya, but it's not. So we have made the lesson, gipaagi na po siya another cycle para to see na perfect na ba gid siya. It's not really the perfect, but applicable na gid siya for the proper implementation. So it's very meticulous type of study because it will undergo 3 cycles jud, no? So man. Hopefully I have answered your question, sir, no?
Thank you, Sir Mark
Yes.
Rollins. July, you have a question, you can unmute. Sir Joshua, is that you raised your hand? I'm sorry. Yes, Sir
Yes,
Joshua,
yes.
you can unmute, Sir Joshua.
Oh yes, thank you po, ma'am, and thank you, sir. That was
Hello.
also a very insightful question. No? I just want to clarify. What I'm asking is, our study is an assessment on political literacy, and
Uh,
we have a quantitative part which is kind of like yours, where there is an
uh,
achievement test, so 10 questions only, and then we have a more like we're asking more, what's that called, opposite of objective questions, subjective, thank you, we're asking more subjective questions. But with the achievement test part, our
mm-mm.
teacher advised us to find a study that will back up why we use those questions, why we will use, we're planning on using a chi-square to assess the data afterwards. And I understand if forgive me if I'm wrong,
Yes, yes, ma'am.
in
It's okay.
your in your
Uh,
assessment of your data, you use mean, right?
yes,
And
yes.
I'm just wondering if you needed to also search for um, a, 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 a related study to back up why you use that specific mean, or maybe you have some advice for us on how to
Yes, yes.
use what data analysis method
Uh, uh, uh.
used in evaluating our quantitative data. So thank you so much, sir. Yes.
Okay. I would like to answer no because when based on the queries that you have, Murag, there are many things that we can point out. So the first one is that how are the I think you have asked about the achievement test, right? So how did we choose with the questions? Am I right? So para mahinay-hinay na to. Sakto ba?
Yes po, sir.
How did we prepare the questions, no? So that is the question kung did we base ba that in a previous study? Am I right?
Opo, sir.
Okay. So actually, this is one of the comments from my panel members during my study before. So the question, Jude, will be coming from the difficulties that we have gathered from the students during our pre-implementation so that katong kuan na nagather ng mga difficulty, makita na to ba nga there is an improvement kay if we are going to base that one in a previous study, Jud, exactly the questions prepared from the previous studies, basin man dili na siya applicable. So that's why we have modified the two-tiered multiple choice achievement test to suit the recent na problem. So that is it. Did I answer the first question, ma'am?
Yes po, sir.
Then the second question is about the data analysis. Am I right?
Oh yes po, sir. I think for me personally, it's one of the biggest problems how to choose a data analysis method because it's not our specialty
Okay.
of the statistics and stuff like that. So we're having a
Mm-mm.
little bit of a problem there. So if you have any advice, we'd be very grateful to hear it, po, sir. Thank you again.
Okay, so in my study, actually, I have used different methods. It's just that the mean that I have get, dili man siya diretso nga ato to siyang i-interpret. So after the mean, no, we have interpreted using another tool na po. So actually, in my study, wala na ko siya na-mention because diretso naman sa presentation of the data na no. But in my study, I have used other statistical tools like Pearson product moment correlation, Kendall-Stowe correlation. Then I have also used analysis of covariance and two-case test for post hoc analysis. So all in all, I have 5 statistical tools to interpret my with my data. So actually, if ever I have the chance to look into with your research, maybe I could help, no? So para proper gyud nga discussion with that. Okay? Okay, magdepende man sad gud sa study. Oo. Okay, not all the time we have the same statistical tools to be used. Did I answer the question?
I understood po, Sir Valispin. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes, yes. You're welcome, dear. So glad to be of help. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir, Mas Ravi. So, Joshua, I'm sorry you are female, so thank you, Ma'am Joshua, for that question. And then, Sir Macaulay, maybe you could drop or your email so that Joshua could
Yes.
contact you for additional help.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Sir Valispin. So Joshua, so if Sir Valispin here is willing to help you with your research, so you could probably contact him of your queries. Thank you again, Sir Valispin. So let me present to you the certificates, sir. Okay. Certificate of Recognition to Matt Roland B. Valispin for sharing his knowledge and expertise as presenter during the 37th Foundation Day Anniversary Research Colloquium on Academic Resilience during the Pandemic of the College of Education, given the 17th day of March 2021 at the MSU-IIT Iligan City. Signed by Ma'am Amelia P. Buwan, PhD, Dean of the College of Education, Sir Franco G. Teves, PhD, Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs. Also, I would like to present this certificate to the co-author, Ma'am Edna Nabua, for sharing her knowledge and expertise as presenter during the 37th Foundation Day Anniversary Research Colloquium on Academic Resilience during the pandemic of the College of Education, given the 17th day of March 2021 at the MSU-IIT Vegan TV. So thank you very much, Sir Valispin, and also to the co-authors of Sir Valispin's research style. Okay, so that's it. That's our 4 presenters for this breakout session. Thank you very much to our audience for their participation. Thank you very much to our presenters who have shared a lot of insights about their studies. So we hope that our audience here have learned a lot from the research studies presented by our awesome presenters. So before we bid goodbye, let us take a photo first. For those who can open their camera, please do so. I'm going to wait. Okay, we have here Sir Matt, we have Joshua, Ma'am Edna, hi ma'am. Who else? Don't be shy, you can open your camera. Okay. They are. So let's take a photo. Maybe we could pause. You can pause for a while for 5 seconds. Okay, one. Okay, thank you very much, representatives again to the audience. So we are sending an evaluation form in our chat box. Wait, let me just send it to you. Okay, that is our evaluation form. So I hope our audiences here in this Google Meet, also in the YouTube, could fill out that evaluation form. Please answer the evaluation form in all honesty, and thank you for your cooperation. So that will be all for today's session. Always remember to keep safe. Once again, I am General Salim Narif, your moderator for this research cluster, humanities and social sciences. Thank you and God bless. So you may now probably leave the room. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Joshua.